Have you ever stopped to consider that the reason you're stuck isn't because you're lazy, unworthy, or unlucky, but because your mind was trained to fail? Yes, you were trained, not by evil intentions, but by repetition, by watching fear disguised as wisdom, by hearing limitations spoken as facts, by absorbing other people's broken beliefs as if they were universal truths. From a very young age, your brain started collecting data. Money is hard to make. People like us don't succeed. Dreams are for others, not for me. This is just how life is. And without knowing it, your brain stored those phrases as commands, rules to obey. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But what if the only thing your mind ever believed was that success was for someone else? This is not about willpower. It's not about intelligence. It's about programming. Your subconscious, the operating system behind your every decision, is not loyal to truth. It's loyal to what is familiar. And if you've lived your whole life hearing doubt, scarcity, fear, then your mind is not wired for growth. It's wired for survival, for defense, for mediocrity. Let's go back to the Bible, to the story of Gideon. In Judges 6, the angel of the Lord calls Gideon a mighty warrior. But what does Gideon say? "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied, "but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest, and I am the least in my family." Judges 6:15. That is the voice of programming. Gideon wasn't weak. He was conditioned to believe he was. He wasn't powerless. He was rehearsing a mental script passed down for generations. And yet, God saw something else in him, a code that hadn't been activated yet. And that's what this message is about. You are not broken. You are just running an old code, a mental lock created by repetition, not truth. But here's the good news. What was programmed by repetition can be reprogrammed by choice. You are not stuck. You are not cursed. You are not too late. You are simply at the starting point of reconfiguration. Every time you choose a new thought, you are disrupting the old system. Every time you speak life into your future, you are overriding the outdated script. Every time you say "I can" instead of "I can't," you are cracking the lock. Napoleon Hill didn't just preach about thinking big, he proved that thought, when mixed with belief and action, becomes power. He studied hundreds of the world's most successful men, and none of them succeeded because they had better backgrounds. They succeeded because they chose to believe something different than what they were told. That's the turning point. When you stop repeating what broke you and start repeating what will rebuild you. Let me say this clearly. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another secret formula. What you need is a new internal agreement, one that says, "I refuse to think like a failure. I refuse to live by fear. I refuse to accept the limits that were passed down to me." Because the moment you say that, truly say it, you've already taken the first step in reprogramming your mind. Imagine your brain as an operating system. Every thought you've ever repeated, every belief you've ever accepted, every fear you've absorbed, is stored like code in the background. You're not just reacting to life, you're running programs. Some of these programs were installed before you even had a say, from teachers, parents, media, trauma, culture, and most of it wasn't intentional. But now, it's default. Every time you say, "I'm just not that kind of person," or "That's not for people like me," you're not speaking truth. You're executing code. And here's the catch. Your subconscious doesn't ask if that code is good for you. It only asks, "Is this what we've always believed?" That's why change feels so unnatural at first. Because your system, your mental software, is designed to protect the known, even if the known is destroying you. Napoleon Hill called this hypnotic rhythm. Nature uses hypnotic rhythm to make one's dominating thoughts and desires permanent habits. What does that mean? It means that whatever you rehearse mentally, consciously or unconsciously, eventually becomes automatic, not because it's right, but because it's repeated. Let's go back to the Bible again. Do you remember Moses at the burning bush? God appears to him, calls him by name, gives him purpose. Go to Pharaoh, set my people free. And how does Moses respond? Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? Exodus 3:11. Think about that. The Creator of the universe gives you a mission, and your first response is, who am I? Why? Because Moses was still running old code. Code from Egypt, code from rejection, code from failure, code that said, you are not worthy, you are not capable, you are not enough. But that code wasn't written by God. It was written by experience and held in place by repetition. And you? You may be carrying similar code. Code that says, don't speak up, don't trust people, don't try again, play it safe. But that's not the code of freedom. That's the code of fear. And if you want to shift your reality, you have to uninstall the belief that got you here. Your current results are not a reflection of your worth. They are a reflection of the mental operating system you've been running. It's not your fault, but now it's your responsibility. Napoleon Hill wrote, you either control your mind or it controls you. There is no halfway compromise. This is not a metaphor. It's neurobiology. Your thoughts create neural pathways, and the more you think them, the deeper the grooves become. Soon, you're not choosing anymore. You're reacting. But here's the power. Just as thoughts can trap you, new thoughts can train you. You can start replacing the code. One new idea at a time, one new choice at a time, one new declaration at a time. Instead of saying, who am I? Say, I am who God says I am. Instead of saying, I can't, say, through Christ, I can do all things. Philippians 4:13. This is not about fake positivity. It's about creating mental integrity. Your thoughts, your identity, your vision, all aligned. So let me ask you, what line of code is running your life today? And more importantly, are you ready to rewrite it? Because you don't need a new life. You need a new system. Here's a truth most people never hear. You are not stuck. You're just wired that way. For now, science has a name for it. Neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a fixed structure. It's not cement. It's clay. It can be shaped. It can be rewired. It can be trained to believe, feel, act, and expect differently. That means the thoughts you repeat, the emotions you rehearse, the beliefs you protect, are sculpting your brain every single day. If you've lived years telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I'll never change, this is just who I am, then your brain has created neural highways that reinforce those statements. And now, they feel real, not because they are true, but because they're familiar. Napoleon Hill wrote, any idea, plan, or purpose may be placed in the mind through repetition of thought, and science confirms it. Your brain strengthens the connections you use most. So if you want to break a mental pattern, you don't beg for a miracle. You build a new connection. You take one new thought and walk it like a path, again and again, until it becomes stronger than the old one. But here's the mistake most people make. They wait to feel different before they think different. They wait for life to change before they believe something new. That's backwards. Your brain doesn't lead your belief. Your belief leads your brain. Let me show you through Scripture. Think about Saul of Tarsus, the man who persecuted Christians. He believed deeply that he was doing the right thing. He was wired for destruction. His brain, his habits, his entire identity were built around one idea, until one moment changed everything. Acts 9:4-6 says, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. In that moment, Saul's wiring didn't just shift, his identity shifted. He became Paul, apostle of grace, from persecutor to preacher, from pride to purpose, from killer of truth to builder of truth. Was it instant? No. He had to relearn everything. He had to rebuild his mind from the inside out. But that shift, that neuroplastic moment, is what many of us are missing. We want a new life, but we don't want a new mind. We pray for favor, but refuse to change the internal structure that blocks it. Napoleon Hill called this definiteness of purpose. The person who moves with definiteness recognizes nothing but victory. You don't create that kind of focus with feelings. You create it with intentional thoughts, reinforced daily. That's neuroplasticity in action. So here's what you must understand. You are not your past. You are not your patterns. You are not your pain. You are whatever you choose to reinforce. And every time you think, speak, write, declare, or act according to your future self, you are literally building new neural architecture. God doesn't need you to be perfect. He needs you to be available, to renew your mind so that He can transform your life. Romans 12:22 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That's not poetry. That's biology. You have the power to change your mind. And when your mind changes, everything else follows. So here's the question. Are you still wiring your life around your wounds? Or are you finally ready to rewire around your vision? Let's get one thing clear. You don't get what you want in life, you get what you believe. And your beliefs are nothing more than thoughts you've repeated enough times to become real to you. Napoleon Hill knew this long before the science of mindset exploded. He didn't just write about money or success. He decoded the mechanism behind achievement. His most famous words still echo with truth. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. At first glance, that might sound like wishful thinking, but it's not. It's psychological law. It's spiritual principle. And now, it's scientifically proven. Your brain is a goal-seeking machine. When you hold a thought long enough with emotion, focus, and belief, your brain starts aligning everything in your behavior to match that reality. It's called cognitive consistency. It means your subconscious mind will fight to make your external life match your internal identity. So if deep down you believe you're a failure, your mind will find ways to prove it. You'll sabotage opportunities. You'll ignore solutions. You'll push away support. Not because you're weak, but because your inner world is wired to defend your beliefs, not your potential. But the opposite is also true. When you start believing you're called to more, when you start thinking like someone who's already on the path to greatness, when you speak life into your future with conviction, everything inside you begins to shift. Let's go back to the Bible. In Genesis 15, God gives Abraham a vision. He doesn't hand him a son instantly. He gives him a picture first. Look now toward heaven and count the stars. So shall your offspring be. By Genesis 15:5. Why? Because vision always precedes manifestation. Abraham had to see it in his mind before he could receive it in his hands. That's how faith works. And Napoleon Hill understood this deeply. He called it autosuggestion, the practice of feeding your subconscious new commands. Autosuggestion is the agency through which thought impulses are voluntarily planted in the subconscious mind. Hill. In modern terms, it's mental coding. Every time you affirm, declare, visualize, journal, or meditate on the life you want, you're installing that future into your internal operating system. But here's the key. You must believe it emotionally, not just recite it verbally. It's not about repeating, "I am rich" 100 times a day if your heart says, "This is a lie." It's about aligning your inner world with the version of yourself that God already sees, even if you can't see it yet. Because when you combine thought plus belief, plus faith plus action, you activate the formula that Hill spent decades uncovering. So stop saying someday. Stop saying maybe. Stop saying we'll see. Start planting new thoughts with full conviction. Start building new emotions around those thoughts. Start speaking like someone whose vision is non-negotiable. Because when your thoughts are clear, your actions become powerful. And when your actions align with belief, reality begins to shift. Napoleon Hill didn't create the principle, he just gave it language. The Bible said it first. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. What you think consistently, you become, you embody, you attract. So what are you thinking today? What thought is shaping your tomorrow? Because whether you realize it or not, your future is already forming, one thought at a time. If you want to know where your life is headed, look at what you repeat. Because repetition is not just habit, it's construction. Every repeated thought is a hammer. Every word you speak is a blueprint. Every choice you make, over and over again, is a brick. You are building your future, either consciously or unconsciously, one repetition at a time. This isn't just motivational language, it's science. Your brain literally rewires itself based on repetition. It's called Hebbian learning, the idea that neurons that fire together, wire together. In other words, what you repeat, you reinforce. And what you reinforce becomes who you are. So ask yourself, what have I been rehearsing? Have you been rehearsing fear? Rehearsing rejection? Rehearsing not good enough? Rehearsing scarcity? Rehearsing failure? Because if you keep repeating it, your brain doesn't ask, is this good for us? It only says, this must be important. Let's make it permanent. Napoleon Hill wrote, any idea that is held in the mind, emphasized, feared, or revered, begins at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate physical form available. Read that again. He didn't say it has to be positive. He said anything, even fear, if repeated with emotion, starts to manifest in your reality. So what's the solution? Repetition, but with intention. The Bible gives us a clear example in Joshua 1:8. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Did you catch that? Speak it. Think on it, day and night. Why? Because God knows how the mind works. He designed it, and He gave us the blueprint. Repetition creates alignment. But here's the secret. Repetition is happening whether you choose it or not. Every complaint is repetition. Every excuse is repetition. Every negative self-talk loop is a training session. So if you're not directing the repetition, you're being programmed by default. Your brain is like fertile soil. It doesn't decide what to grow. It just grows whatever you plant consistently. So what are you planting? What do you say to yourself every morning? What do you allow yourself to think at night? What phrases are looping in your internal dialogue? Because those loops are wiring your brain. Napoleon Hill called this the power of autosuggestion, the process of training your subconscious through repeated intentional thought. Man may become the master of himself and of his environment because he has the power to influence his own subconscious mind. That's not a theory. It's a responsibility. So if you want to break free, start by building a new rhythm. Create a morning ritual. Write new declarations. Speak out your goals. Read the Word daily. Visualize your future self. Interrupt every limiting loop with truth. This is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. Because the mind doesn't respond to inspiration. It responds to repetition. And if the enemy knows that, why wouldn't you use the same system for your victory? Don't underestimate the power of small, repeated choices. Because over time, those choices will shape your beliefs. And your beliefs will shape your life. Your brain is like a garden. Whatever you plant in it, whether flowers or weeds, will grow. If you don't consciously choose your thoughts, the world will plant them for you. Every piece of news you absorb, every post you scroll through, every conversation you entertain is like a seed dropped into your subconscious. Over time, those seeds bloom into beliefs, emotions, and behaviors that shape your reality. The book of Proverbs gives us one of the most powerful mental truths ever written. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. You don't become what you want. You become what you constantly think about. Napoleon Hill echoed the same idea in modern terms. You become what you think about all day long. So ask yourself, what do you think about all day? What ideas do you let simmer in your consciousness from morning to night? Do you feed your mind with doubt, gossip, complaints, and fear? Or do you nourish it with vision, faith, knowledge, and clarity? Mental nutrition is as vital as physical nutrition. You can't eat junk food every day and expect to have a strong, healthy body. And you can't consume mental garbage and expect to build a life of excellence. That means choosing your inputs carefully. Refuse to start your day with chaos. Stop opening your phone before opening your purpose. Replace passive scrolling with intentional reading. Turn down the noise and tune into wisdom. Even Jesus, when tempted in the wilderness, responded with clarity because his mind was fed by Scripture. He didn't fight back with emotion. He responded with truth. That's mental nutrition in action. If you're not storing truth in your mind, you'll have nothing to draw from when pressure hits. Want to shift your mental environment? Start with small, non-negotiable upgrades. Wake up with a declaration, not a distraction. Read 5 minutes of something that grows your soul. Watch one video that stretches your thinking. Eliminate one toxic voice from your daily input. Replace one complaint with a gratitude statement. You are not powerless. You are programmable, and you are the programmer. The moment you take control of what enters your mind, you begin to take control of what exits your life. Stop feeding your mind with poverty and expecting abundance. Stop feeding it with fear and expecting peace. Start feeding it with strength, wisdom, and faith, and watch your entire life change from the inside out. Faith and imagination are not soft concepts. They are the twin engines of achievement, the invisible forces behind every breakthrough. Without faith, you doubt your power. Without imagination, you can't even see what's possible. But when these two work together, you become unstoppable. Napoleon Hill said, "Faith is the only known antidote for failure." He also taught that imagination is the workshop of the mind, where all plans are created. Now think about that. Your future begins in the unseen space between belief and vision. Hebrews 11:1 puts it this way, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." That's not just poetic. That's a blueprint. You don't need to see the path fully. You need to believe that the path exists and start walking. Some people only believe what they see, but leaders, creators, and winners see what they believe. They imagine it, feel it, walk in it before anyone else understands it. Noah built an ark before the first drop of rain. David saw victory over Goliath before stepping onto the battlefield. That's not just courage. That's faith paired with vision. So how do you use this in real life? You start small. You take 5 minutes each day to visualize the future you're building. Not as a fantasy, but as a detailed preview. You speak your future aloud. You let your words carve paths into your subconscious. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. It responds to repetition and emotional intensity. Faith says, "It's mine, even if I don't see it yet." Imagination says, "Let me build it in my mind first." Together, they call your destiny forward. But here's the truth. Faith and imagination must be guarded. Doubt will sneak in. Life will try to distract you with busyness, logic, or past pain. That's why reprogramming your mind is not a one-time download. It's a daily spiritual practice. You have to water your faith and stretch your vision every single day. Create mental space for your dreams to breathe. Write down what you see. Speak life over your future. Don't let current circumstances imprison your thinking. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. Delay is not denial. God often takes time to prepare you for the blessing you're asking for. If you really want to reprogram your mind for success, faith and imagination are not optional. They're essential. Feed them. Guard them. Use them. Let's break a lie right now. Wanting to prosper does not make you greedy. Wanting to grow, earn more, live better, help your family and impact others, that doesn't make you superficial. That makes you aligned. Napoleon Hill was clear. No man can succeed in a line of endeavor which he does not like. That means your true path to prosperity is not just about hard work. It's about alignment. When what you think, believe, say, and do are in harmony, prosperity flows. When they clash, you self-sabotage. Many people are stuck financially not because of lack of talent, but because of guilt. Deep down, they believe money is dirty, that abundance is dangerous, or that God wants them to suffer to stay humble. That's not truth. That's programming. Proverbs 10:22 says, "The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and he adds no sorrow to it." In other words, divine prosperity comes without guilt, without fear, without shame. If your spirit is aligned with your values, and your values are rooted in service, truth, and discipline, then abundance is not a threat. It's a tool. You can serve more when you have more, feed more when you earn more, impact more when you grow more. Poverty is not a spiritual achievement. Generosity is. And you can't give what you don't have. To reprogram your mind for this kind of alignment, start questioning the beliefs you inherited. Ask yourself, do I really believe money is bad? Or did someone just tell me that? Do I think being rich makes me selfish? Or is that a narrative built by people who gave up? You don't owe the world your sacrifice. You owe your Creator your full potential. Playing small serves no one. Shrinking back because others are uncomfortable is not humility. It's self-betrayal. Start to see wealth as an extension of your purpose. Imagine your influence expanding because you're no longer surviving, you're leading. See how many lives you could change with more resources, time, and freedom. That's not a fantasy. That's stewardship. Prosperity is not just about income. It's about impact. And impact starts with alignment. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits, all tuned to your highest calling. So today, affirm this to yourself. I was not created for lack. I am not guilty for wanting more. I am responsible for growing what God gave me. That's spiritual alignment. That's the foundation of true success. It's time. Not next month. Not next year. Right now. You've heard the truth. You've felt the pull. You've seen the patterns. So now there's only one question left. Are you going to keep living on autopilot? Or are you finally going to reprogram your mind for the life you were created to live? Napoleon Hill said, "The time will never be just right. Start where you stand and work with whatever tools you may have." And that's the secret. It's not about having the perfect plan. It's about having the perfect decision. Romans 12:3, Ronhal 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That's not a metaphor. That's a blueprint. You want a new life? Start with a new mindset. Feed your thoughts. Shape your words. Discipline your attention. Build your faith. Every time you respond with courage instead of fear, you reprogram your brain. Every time you choose gratitude over complaint, you upgrade your spirit. Every time you persist when quitting feels easier, you are becoming unstoppable. You are not broken. You are becoming. But becoming demands focus. And focus demands intention. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop hoping someone will save you. God already placed the seed inside of you. The rest is training. And every day that you feed your mind with wisdom, vision, and belief, you are training for impact. Make no mistake, your thoughts are planting your future right now. What you repeat becomes real. What you tolerate becomes truth. So speak like a builder. Think like a conqueror. Believe like a child of God. Say it with me now, wherever you are. I will no longer think like a victim. I will think like a victor. I will train my mind. and I will transform my life. That's not a slogan. That's a decision. And if this message moved something inside of you, don't just listen. Act. Share this with someone who needs it. Save it. Rewatch it. And most importantly, comment below. What belief will you reprogram starting today? Because saying it out loud is the first step to making it real. You don't need more motivation. You need momentum. So let's build it. One thought at a time, one belief at a time, one action at a time. Because the moment you decide to master your mind is the moment everything else begins to change.